Hello everyone, I'm Husky, and today I'm going to be watching and reacting to the ACC Racing Pals random races. This time out, it was the Lamborghini Super Trofeo at Paul Ricard at night. Being able to follow me, which we're going to be doing for the entire race. I am in the 54, the pink Lamborghini Huracan. You can quite clearly see it from the pink auxiliary light, the number 54 car, with my very nice pink helmet in as well. As we're coming up to the start, I started in 4th. The point of the random races was the race, the car, the track, and the time combo are chosen 10 minutes before the race by a random number generator. So no one knows what's happening, so no one had practice. But on that account, as you can see, this was the first of 2 races. Everyone, as far as I know, got through cleanly. I think there was a bit of a punt up the back from someone else, but there was no one spinning out onto the gravel. I managed to keep P4 chasing on the back of Eat Magash from the GT3 series. Spoiler to the end, I had a very good battle with Magash for quite a while there as someone goes wide through turn 3. The cars were quite interesting. You might see a lot of the time I'm catching slides as we get an onboard from myself. A lot of the time it's about catching slides. Paul Ricard, the track limits on the outside of corners as well, as you can see, symbolised by the yellow curves and signs. You can go off track there, but you have to come back on. Later on, Eat Magash found a little loophole in one of the track limits that allowed him to cut a corner. Which I tried to do as well, but I found it gave me a worse line as we're running up now to the long right-hander. I found that this car, at least the way that I drove it, it liked to be quite a lot like the Huracan GT3 Evo, which is my main car in ACC. You want to drive it, at least I found that I wanted to drive it as smooth as possible and do all of my braking before the corner, though sometimes I did braking into the corner. So the race was a 20-minute race, and after a few laps of just trying to consistently catch up to Magash with Ed Cassetta and Moreno leading the field and leading away in the end, you can see I was getting quite close to Magash at this point as the gap between myself and the rest of the grid was starting to form. As we made the start onto lap 2. This was one of my first online races in ACC as well. I was using, for the entirety of the races, I was using just the default stable setup. Which I found when you want to make it as smooth as possible. Here, so you see I give Magash a bit of a punt. I did slow down to let him keep the position. He broke a lot earlier than I thought he was going to into turn 3. So that was sort of... I did try to avoid it, but it was quite difficult. I also found I took a lot more curb before the Mistral straight than a lot of people, which comes back to bite me in the second race a little bit. So now you can see I'm running side by side with Magash in the 68 car as we run up the Mistral straight. These cars got a lot of speed when you're in the draft, and the draft distance was absolutely insane. You'd gain anywhere from like 6 to 10 miles an hour. As we were scared in the Discord coming up to this corner going too wide. But we kept it pretty clean, you know, side by side. I was told at the end from Magash that I'm quite physical when battling. We had quite a few little bumps and little side-by-side contact, but there was nothing that put either of us out of the race. So here I've now got into P3, but yeah, Magash was all over the rear of me for the majority of the race. He did overtake a few times as well, which we'll see when we clear up. I used to go quite deep into the second to last corner, which I think Magash never expected. He usually had to take avoiding action towards the end of the race. But yeah, it was definitely something to keep the eyes on, that my lines were a little bit different from everyone else up the grid. I think I took 2 to Super Trofeo quite quickly. Not as quick as I would have liked. I ended up getting, my best lap time was a 2:02.4, I think, in both races in the Super Trofeo. Which wasn't too bad. I think Cassetta, who at this point I think was leading the race, I'm not 100% sure. I think he was putting in 2:01s at the end, maybe a 2-minute flat. As we're going to go on board with Magash now. As you can see, like, he's in the draft here. The Mistral Straight was awful for losing positions. If you had enough of an overlap, you could get past before the long right-hander, but sometimes it's difficult. As I move over to cover off the outside, I got all my braking done and down into 5th through the corner. I also tried to go for the under here. Couldn't really make it happen, so I go into the next corner. So again, we were running side by side. I think we got a bit of contact. Yeah, you can see there we did get some contact. The car sort of just stepped out from underneath me and started to understeer. It was quite difficult to defend from Magash for this first race. He was definitely giving me a very good run for my money. Again, he goes quite deep into the second to last corner to avoid me. I don't know why. I don't think I was taking as much speed as I could have into that corner. It's a line that I never really got throughout the entire race. I mean, I wasn't slow by any stretch of the imagination, but I was definitely pulling. Well, I was definitely being pulled in through the second to last corner as I go very deep into the first corner. Almost actually clear out Magash. I didn't actually see him when I was trying to rejoin, so I have to apologise to him for that. So I'm still holding 3rd place. It was very back and forth throughout the entire session. As a lot of people were getting track limit warnings. This was, surprisingly, for the first race, I thought the first race was going to be, you know, a lot more physical at T1 with many drivers. You know, a car and track combo, we'd only had at best an hour of practice. At worst, some drivers maybe getting in about half an hour. I got about 45 minutes of practice. Some drivers opted to, I think, build setups. Other drivers opted to go it straight here. As you can just see how much you get on the slipstream there. As I make a very cheeky move up the inside, Magash actually went off really wide, giving me the perfect opportunity to keep it down the inside. I found that if you were gentle enough with the car, as we get a bit more contact there, you could go quite deep into this long right-hander. As we also had, I think that was Liggins behind. I could be wrong. It might not have been Liggins. But he was also starting to get very close. There was, I think Magash, about this point where he started to learn where my line was. And then makes quite a late move up the inside. I actually got the back out quite a bit, which I thought really was going to be the end of my challenge for 3rd place. Because you can see the gap there, but I sort of just kept my head down and kept going, because you can see the gap between me, oh that is Terry Liggins, me and Liggins behind was actually getting quite close together. I was actually worried that I was going to have to start defending from Liggins, so I thought the best I'll be able to do is keep P4. This is called foreshadowing. But then I sort of had a bit of a take it back and had a thought. Liggins isn't actively attacking me yet. I shouldn't worry about trying to find my defensive lines against him. I should focus more on fighting Magash. Magash started to go very wide onto the Mistral Straight as well, finding I think that might not have been a track limits infringement. Again, we're on the straight. Magash did try to move left to right up the straight a little bit, I think to try and get me out of the draft. Ideally, I would have wanted the outside through this corner, because I got quite a lot of speed normally on the exit instead, so I'd try to go up the inside and carry it through to this long right-hander that we're currently in. For the minute, I was just keeping it very close to Magash. I think I gave him a little bit of a love kiss there. But really, this is what racing is more or less about. You know, being aggressive, but knowing when to bring it back as much as possible. As Liggins almost collects me there. When I first watched the replay, I am actually surprised that I didn't netcode into him. I thought, honestly, that would have been the end of my race. Liggins making the same, I think the same assumption that Magash was doing was that I'd carry a lot more speed through the second to last corner. As I think we're at the halfway point of the race by about now. There was really no real room for me to relax during the race. I had to now focus on Liggins behind me, but also Magash ahead of me. I also was then starting to worry a little bit about Shablum as well. All of these being drivers, if you watch the streams that I do, being drivers from the GT3 series, drivers with a lot more experience in this game than what I had. I thought, honestly, when I started, when I thought, you know, I'll connect to the server and just have a few laps, and, you know, maybe see if I can get a battle down the grid. I was not actually expecting to be anywhere near 4th place. I was expecting to be down towards the bottom. I think we had 14 cars on the grid for this, which, seeming as these are cars that maybe some people have driven. I think it was my second time driving the Super Trof. Took a lot to get used to. I think I spent most of my time actually making sure the colours on my livery were right. Matte grey and pink looks amazing. Yeah, I was thinking I would, you know, be running towards the rear of the grid, maybe starting to fall down towards last, or maybe actually hoping to improve in the second race. It was honestly quite a tricky thing to estimate, seeing as I was new to this car. I think quite a few more drivers were also new to this car. At this point as well, Moreno and Cassetta had just disappeared as well. The gap between me and Magash was actually increasing. I think the gap between myself and Liggins at this point was stagnating. So I was quite happy trying to just maintain this gap. It might have been this lap that something does happen which plays directly into my hands, but I'm not going to foreshadow it yet, as I take a lot more curb off onto the Mistral straight than a lot of people. I was actually close. I think I got one track limit warning because I turned in too early there. I wasn't sure if I was in the draft here against Magash. I was. You can see I was using that pole on the inside to the right as my marker to start accelerating. These cars having ABS and traction control, which is one up from the Porsche Cup cars, which I think only have ABS and no traction control. And I was really close to Magash here, who I'm not sure what happens to him, but he gets the back very loose, and he actually ends up giving me the position, which promoted me into 3rd place as well, with quite a nice gap. he was starting to get close. I think I'm just going to quickly check the replay time. Yeah, there are 11 laps to this race to come back across the start-finish line towards turn 1. I think by this point I was quite happily away. Be behind now. Actually, Magash was starting to be under attack from Liggins. Yeah, the rest of the race was pretty much a stagnate as we're going to skip forward in time to the last lap, and we're going to just take an onboard lap because I think I was starting to figure out the car. The gap between me and Magash was now quite big. I saw that I heard the engineer say, final lap. And you can see how much I was just off the brake through T1. But yeah, I heard final lap, and then it was a case of, okay, I have to push. Because Magash was starting to catch up to me. But it wasn't as quick as I would have liked, so my goal was just not even to extend the gap, it was just to stagnate the gap. Because the last thing I would have wanted was Magash taking it away from me at the last lap. Because we're now just running up Mistral straight. You can see Magash is close. I don't think he was close enough to get the draft on me though. We also had to worry about Liggins too, which I don't think was ideal. Magash goes very deep out of the long right-hander. Very deep again. That's when I saw both of them in the mirror go off. That was it. I knew that, I just have to make no mistakes, and that'll be my race. That'll be my P4. So it was really just a case of, get as quick as I can, and make sure that I keep it clean. As then I was going to cross the start-finish line. Even though it was a third place, I was absolutely fucking ecstatic with myself that I managed to get third place as Magash just goes completely off into the wall. So yeah, that was race 1. Race 2 wasn't as interesting, so I'll just give a quick rundown of what happened with it. Okay, and then here we are at the start of race 2. The sun had come out. This was race 2. The same format as race 1. There was a qualifying before. Then it was another 20-minute race. Drivers were faster now. That's Trainboy 2005 in front of me. He had run from the middle of the grid up to the front. I think he qualified in 3rd. I had a look up the inside and was going up the inside there, and then got absolutely destroyed by Shoblum into turn 1. Inadvertently taking out Trainboy as well. Surprisingly, I got out of that with no damage, and I thought, I'm now, I think, four free cars from last. As I thought, I've got to make as best of a recovery drive as I can, and I was really happy. As you can see, the white and red number 500 car of Treasure went round as well, so I took off up the outside. Now I was actually running side by side with Moreno, who, again, I took as much curb. The car stepped out, and then goodbye Moreno off into the wall. And that was, I think that was actually the end of his race. He did get down to last, and I felt so bad for this as well. Because Moreno didn't deserve the death. I thought that the car wasn't going to step out as much as it did, because in my previous laps when fighting Magash it didn't step out that much. Yeah, it really did. I ended up actually back fighting Magash, as I actually had Ed Cassetta in front of me. I think the driver that won the first race. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been Moreno. I know he won the second because he took the lead from Milt, I think, on the final lap. There was just one bit that I wanted to see. There's Magash now in front of me. Again, I was back fighting Eat Magash for the race. You know, I already had an idea of where he was slower than me from the previous race. Not saying that was a bad thing. It's one thing you've got to be able to measure up as a driver. Magash actually taking his off-track that he was taking for quite a while. Which I did attempt to do, but I found it actually gave me a worse entry into the second to last corner. I found it would take me quite deep. And in reality, Magash didn't actually claim too much time. But to give him his credit, when I said about it, he did ask if I wanted him to let me go by, and I was like, no, if I'm gonna win, I'm gonna, you know, try and do it as legitimately as possible, because I had already figured out I didn't lose much time. But it was just an idea of I've got to try and push as much as possible through, I think, Sector 2. And I think Sector 1 and Sector 2 where I gained the most time on Magash. Because I was actually quite cheeky here and tried around the outside. I did have to brake, because otherwise Magash would have come across me, which probably would have ended worse for him than it would for me. This, again, is called foreshadowing. As I honestly thought that, you know, I was close enough now to get the draft through the Mistral straight. But Magash going quite wide on the exit of that left-hander made it quite difficult for me to go up and get as much of the draft as possible. I could have gone alongside him, but he did get the back off quite heavy when he run the whole runoff area, since there was I think a curb bump, which I didn't want to deal with because I'm not very good when the car gets unsettled over a bump. I completely run over the track limit markers there. I think in the end, the foreshadowing came at the point of, I think actually the final lap. Could be wrong, as we're again back to me trying, not really managing it. Magash was still ahead of me at this point. He was making, you know, quite a gap. I think it actually was the final lap. Yeah, it was. It was the final lap, so we'll see just what happened here with Magash. This was the final lap now. I was adamant on getting the draft as much as possible down the Mistral straight as we come up to the long left-hander now. I was, again, very cheeky here. I tried to take it down the inside. I don't think Magash knew I was there, and then actually turned across, which, you know, not a great move, really, but I think when he checked his mirror, I wasn't there. And then when he moved, I was. Which ended up promoting me into fourth. I got out of that a lot better than what Magash did. In the end, I think if he wouldn't have done that, it would have been very close up to the line. I think it might have actually been a last corner dive from me if I would have done it. But yeah, in the end, it pulled me off to get P4, which ended me up having a third and a fourth. So I was very happy with that result. As then I come across the line and then pull off to the side because I didn't want someone ramming up the back of me because I was leaning over my wheel to type at this point. Which yeah, that is the end of what happened with me for the Racing Pals random race Super Trofeo at Paul Ricard. Also make sure to subscribe to my channel, obviously, like, you know, all that stuff that people ask you to do on YouTube. My Twitch is over at twitch.tv/DatHusky. I do commentary for their main GT3 series and also their Skip Barber series, as well as other leagues throughout the week. I'll also be having on this channel as a little special a commentary of the highlights of the two races which I did save. So, thank you for watching. I've been Husky, and goodbye.